The whip cracks, not against your skin, against the limestone wall beside your head. The sound is a thunderclap in the confined space. Dust explodes from the ancient stone, raining down on your shoulders, into your hair, coating your tongue with the taste of Rome itself, bitter, old, suffocating. You flinch. You can't help it. And the overseer smiles. Good, his expression says. You still have reflexes. You're still usable. You are in Pompeii. The year is 72 AD. Above you, the wealthy recline on marble couches, drinking wine that costs more than your life. They debate philosophy. They complain about taxes. They have no idea that in exactly 3 months, Vesuvius will solve every single one of their problems in a matter of hours. But you won't live to see that mercy. You are Bridget of the Iceni, daughter of warriors, granddaughter of druids. Your people painted their faces blue and drove Rome's legions into the sea once. Once. Now you wear chains that have worn grooves into your wrists. The arena roars above you. You can feel it through the stone, the stamp of 10,000 feet, the blood-drunk chanting, the collective howl when a blade finds flesh. You've heard the stories. You know what happens in the sand, the noon executions, the beast hunts, the gladiatorial combats where men kill each other for the entertainment of an empire. You expected to die there. You were prepared to die there. But you're not there. You're in the hypogeum, the world beneath the world, the labyrinth of tunnels and chambers that honeycomb the earth below the arena floor. This is where they keep the animals before they're lifted into the light to die. This is where they keep the condemned before their final walk. But that's not why you're here. You're about to discover what the Romans really meant when they said gladiators needed proper bloodlines. The overseer doesn't lead you toward the arena lifts. He leads you deeper, down corridors that smell of damp earth and something else, something organic and inescapable. The torchlight flickers across walls marked with strange symbols, not Latin, not Greek, something older, something the women who came before you carved into the stone. Warnings, perhaps, or prayers. You pass cells, you hear breathing shallow, rhythmic, exhausted, female breathing, not the fighters, not the beasts. Something else entirely. The overseer stops at an iron-banded door. He doesn't open it yet. He turns to you and his smile is not cruel, it's worse than cruel. It's business-like. They don't train fighters here, he says, his Latin slow so you'll understand every word. They breed them. The door opens. We're descending where historians fear to tread. What you're about to witness is not in the history books. It's not on the museum placards. It's not in the documentaries that show you gleaming armor and noble combat. This is the truth they buried, literally, under ash and time. And the deliberate silence of those who write the victors' stories. Subscribe to walk into this darkness with us. Hit the bell. Let it be your warning when we unearth the next forbidden truth that Rome tried to erase. And now, into the depths. You expected the slave market. You'd heard the stories during the long march from Britannia, the grabbing hands, the leering crowds, men lifting your lips to check your teeth like you were a horse at auction, public degradation, animal fear. But this isn't the forum, this is something else entirely. The chamber is clean, almost sterile. Whitewashed walls reflect oil lamp light with surgical precision. No crowds, no shouting, just you, the overseer, and a man in a Greek physician's tunic who doesn't look at your face once. His name is Philon. You'll learn this later. Right now, he's simply the man with cold hands who measures you like livestock. He starts with your teeth, standard practice, you think, checking for disease, then his fingers move to your jaw, palpating the bones, your neck, your shoulders, clinical, efficient. His stylus scratches against wax tablet after each assessment. Then his hands move to your hips. Not groping, measuring, thumb and middle finger spanning the width of your pelvis. He grunts, makes a note. His hand presses against your lower abdomen, not violating, just counting, feeling for something you don't understand. How many moons since your last bleeding? He asks in mechanical Latin. You don't answer. His eyes don't even flicker with impatience. He simply moves to the next check, lifting your wrist, examining the inside of your arm, looking for track marks, you think, evidence of disease. But then he paints a stripe of red ochre across your wrist. You watch him do the same to 3 other women, all of you marked. The rest, older or too thin or something else he's calculated, remain unmarked. They're led away to a different door. You don't see where they go. The marked women will stay. Philon returns to his wax tablet, consulting something. Mathematical, precise. He points at you. This one, ovulation window, 5 days, assigned to Crixus. The overseer nods, makes his own notation on papyrus. And then you hear the word, the only word Philon has spoken that you fully understand, because it's close enough to the Latin you learned from traders. Inseminatio. Insemination. The clinical efficiency suddenly makes horrible sense. The hip measurements, the abdominal palpation, the menstrual cycle marking, the 5-day window. They weren't checking you for disease. They were checking you for fertility. This isn't a slave market. This isn't even a brothel. This is a breeding program. You are livestock, and your value has just been calculated down to the day. When the door opens that first night, you're ready for violence. You've braced yourself, told yourself you'll fight or dissociate or survive however you can survive. You've heard the stories from other captive women, the brutality, the force, the way they take what they want without hesitation. But Crixus doesn't touch you. He's massive, arena-scarred. His shoulders fill the doorway like a wall of muscle and tissue damage. You can see the evidence of 17 victories carved into his flesh, the diagonal slash across his ribs, the puckered spear wound on his thigh, the way his left hand sits slightly crooked from an old break that healed wrong. He looks at you once, just once, then his eyes move away. And he kneels. Not to you, to the corner of the room. He pulls something from the leather cord around his neck, a small knife, and saws off a lock of his own dark hair, places it on the stone floor, adds a copper coin beside it, some kind of offering to gods you don't recognize. Then in broken Celtic that takes you a moment to place, he speaks. I'm sorry. 2 words, that's all. His accent is wrong Thracian underneath, trying to shape itself around Brittonic sounds. But the meaning is unmistakable. He stands, approaches, and what follows is mechanical, perfunctory. There's no pleasure in it, not for him, certainly not for you. It's duty, a task to complete. He performs it with the same grim efficiency you imagine he uses to kill in the arena. Necessary, required, over as quickly as possible. When he's done, he leaves without another word. In the darkness afterward, you lie on the too soft bed and try to reconcile what just happened with what you expected. The violence you prepared for didn't come, but somehow this was worse. This reduction to pure function. This absence of everything, rage, lust, even cruelty. Just biology, timed and executed. He returns the second night, same ritual, same offering in the corner, same apology in fractured Celtic, same mechanical efficiency. By the third night, you understand the pattern. Philon's 5-day window, the ovulation calculation. Crixus is following a schedule, maximizing probability. This isn't. Assault, not in the way assault is usually framed. This is controlled breeding, timed insemination. Both of you are livestock serving the same master's reproductive schedule. On the fourth night, after he apologizes, you speak. Why? He freezes. For a moment you think he won't answer. Then, in that same broken Celtic, the gods should know, someone should know. Know what? That I am not proud. He doesn't elaborate, doesn't need to. You understand. He's not a monster. He's not even a willing participant. He's a slave too, valuable stud stock. His arena victories earned him this, the privilege of surviving longer in exchange for creating the next generation of fighters. His chains are just gilded differently than yours. The fifth night is the last. Same ritual, same apology, same hollow completion of duty. On the sixth night, he doesn't come. Month 7 enters instead, and you know before she speaks. You can see it in the way she looks at you, the confirmation, the inevitabilities. The physician examined you this morning while you slept, she says. He's confirmed it. You've conceived. The words hit like a gladius to the gut. You'll be moved tomorrow, she continues, to the maternitas, the breeding wing. Your hand moves to your abdomen. Nothing feels different, but Philon's calculations are apparently reliable, accurate enough that they've already moved to the next phase of livestock management. Month 7 sets down fresh linens, pauses at the door. For what it's worth, she says quietly, Crixus's children are usually healthy, strong. The Lanista pays extra for their care during pregnancy. You'll eat better than you have in months. She means it as comfort. It lands as horror. You're not relieved. You're not joyful. You're not even afraid anymore. You're just hollow. Phase 1 complete. Your valuable inventory now. An investment carrying its own appreciation. The Lannista's breeding program has worked exactly as designed. And the worst part, the part that makes your chest tighten, is that somewhere in the ludus, Crixus is probably kneeling in his own cell, making his offerings, apologizing to gods who aren't listening. Both of you reduced to function, both of you commodified, both of you trapped in a system that doesn't require cruelty because efficiency is so much more profitable. The maternitas isn't warm. You expected something, nurturing attendants perhaps, soft blankets, the pretense of care that might accompany valuable breeding stock carrying valuable offspring. But when the door opens, you find only stone, cold, ancient stone and silence. 23 women in various stages of pregnancy occupy the chamber, some barely showing, others so heavy with child they move like ships in harbor, anchored and waiting. They look up when you enter, assess you with eyes that have already calculated your timeline, then return to whatever private mathematics occupy women in cages. The silence isn't empty. Though it's full of something, waiting, watchful. Month 7, now visibly month 19 by the curve of her belly, guides you to an empty pallet. Your eyes adjust to the dim lamplight, and that's when you see them. The walls. Every surface, floor to ceiling, covered in scratched inscriptions. Layer upon layer of text carved into limestone with whatever tools these women could find, pins, rocks, fingernails. Languages you recognize and languages you don't. Oscan, Greek, Celtic dialects, Germanic runes, Hebrew, Egyptian Demotic, hundreds upon hundreds of names. You move closer, expect to read the names of the mothers, memorials to the women who suffered here, perhaps, acts of defiance. I was here, I existed. But that's not what the walls say. Marcus, son of Julia, and Titus the Samnite, born in the month of Mars. Helena, daughter of Aurea, and Crixus the Thracian, born in the month of Venus. Brennus, son of Sabina, and Varro the Gaul, born in the month of Janus. Children's names. Every single inscription is a child's name. Your hand hovers over the carved letters, tracing a line written in your own Brittonic tongue. Caradoc, son of Elon and Dumnorix the Brigantine, born in the month of Beltane. His mother's name was Elon of the Vatadini. He has his father's eyes. They take the babies at birth. Month 7 says quietly behind you, she's watching your face. The boys are raised in the ludus, training before they can walk. The girls are sold before we can hold them, married off to other schools, other Lannisters, before we even hear them cry. You turn to her, something breaking in your chest. But we remember, she continues. They can take our children. They can rename them, rewrite their origins, turn them into Roman property. But we remember their true names. We carve them before the Lannister can replace them with whatever Latin designation he chooses. We preserve who they really are. Another woman approaches, younger, maybe your age, heavily. Pregnant, she runs her fingers over a section of wall with the reverence of someone touching sacred text. My first daughter, she whispers. Gwyneth, they called her Prima, sold her to a school in Capua, but her real name is here, her real mother is here, and someday, if the gods are kind, maybe she'll find this place, maybe she'll know. It's not escape, it's not rebellion, it's not even revenge. It's memory, the last act of resistance, available to women who have nothing left but their voices carved into stone. Month 7 moves to a different section of wall, older inscriptions nearly worn smooth by time and touch. She points to a name near the bottom. Lucia, daughter of Bellica and Spartacus, born in the month of Augustus. Your breath catches the Spartacus. Month 7 nods. 40 years ago, before the Great Revolt, before anyone knew his name, he was just another Thracian fighter, just another stud in the breeding program. The timeline crashes over you like a wave. This isn't new, this isn't a recent innovation. This has been happening for generations. Spartacus, the man who nearly brought Rome to its knees, who led the most famous slave rebellion in history, even he started here. Even he was livestock first. His daughter lived, month 7 continues softly. Bellica scratched her name into this wall 3 days before Spartacus killed the guards and fled. Lucia was 6 months old. They never found out what happened to her after. You scan the walls again with new understanding. Decades of names, generations of children, an archive of bloodlines that the Lannisters track for profit, but the mothers track for love, for identity, for the desperate hope that somewhere, somehow, these stolen children might reclaim their histories. Month 7 hands you a shard of broken pottery, sharp enough to scratch limestone, crude enough to avoid confiscation. When your time comes, she says, you'll understand, you'll want them to know, not the Roman name they. Give your child not the Lannisters' version of their story, the truth, who they really are, who you really are. Your hand closes around the pottery shard. That night you dream of a daughter you haven't yet delivered, of a son who will be trained to kill before he learns his mother's name, of children scattered across the empire like seeds, growing into fighters and breeding stock and profitable investments, never knowing the women who carved their names into stone with bleeding fingers. In the morning, you learn that the walls hold another secret. Look, one of the older women says, pointing to a section near the floor. She produces a candle, holds it at an angle. Under certain light, you can see older inscriptions beneath the visible ones. Layers. The wall has been scraped clean and reused multiple times over the decades, but the pressure of carving leaves impressions. Ghosts of names written, erased, and written again. The Lanista orders it cleaned every few years, the woman explains, says the inscriptions make the chamber look unkempt, so they scrape them away, but we just start again, and the old names, they're still there, you just can't see them anymore. She moves the candle. In the shifting light, you glimpse phantom letters, hundreds more names, thousands maybe, an invisible archive of mothers and children, pressed into stone by desperate hands, scraped away by indifferent authority, but never truly gone. In 2001, you won't know to say, because you don't know what 2001 means, archaeologists will excavate the gladiator barracks of Pompeii. They'll find fetal remains, evidence of selective burial practices. They'll theorize about controlled breeding programs, speak carefully in academic journals about reproductive exploitation, use clinical language to describe what we're living. But you do know this, the walls remember. Even when the names are gone, even when the voices are silenced, even when history tries to erase what happened here, the stone remembers. You press your palm against the limestone, feel the grooves of 100 desperate carvings, and you understand why month 7 brought you here, why she handed you the pottery shard, why this matters more than escape, more than survival, more than anything. Because they can take everything else, but they can't take this. Not if you carve deep enough. Your 8th month of pregnancy arrives with the mountain. Vesuvius has been smoking for days, nothing unusual, the guards said, just the mountain breathing. But on this morning, the 24th day of August, the breathing stops. And the screaming starts. The explosion doesn't sound like thunder. It sounds like the world cracking open. The entire ludus shakes. Dust rains from the ceiling of the Motornitas. Above you in the arena, you hear confusion turning to panic, footsteps running, chains rattling as gladiators are released. Better to risk rebellion than let valuable assets die locked in cells. No one comes to unlock your doors. The ash begins almost immediately, not falling like snow, driving like a sandstorm, horizontal, suffocating. Through the high window of the chamber, you watch Pompeii disappear into gray nothing. Month 7 grabs your hand. Her grip is iron despite her advanced pregnancy, but she's not pulling you toward the door, not toward the street where citizens are fleeing toward the harbor. She's pulling you toward the wall. Help me, she gasps. The other women understand instantly. They're already moving, clawing at the inscriptions with their fingernails. One woman produces a precious piece of wax hoarded from some forgotten candle and presses it into the carved letters, trying to make impressions, trying to save the names before the ash takes everything. We have to go, you shout over the roar. The air is getting hot. The ash is piling at the window. The names, month 7 says. Her voice is calm, eerily calm. If we go, they'll bury the names. If we stay. Maybe someone will find them. Maybe someone will know we were here. She's not running. None of them are running. They're choosing the archive over survival. Your hand moves to your belly, 8 months heavy with Crixus's child. A daughter, you think. You've been thinking of her as a daughter. You've been imagining her face. You haven't carved her name yet because she isn't born, because you don't know if the Lanista will let you see her long enough to whisper it. But you could carve it now. You pull out your pottery shard. You've kept it hidden in your sleeve for 5 months, waiting. Your hand shakes as you press it against fresh limestone. Brigid's daughter of Iceni blood and Thracian strength, not yet born but already loved. Her mother's name is Brigid of the wall shakes, plaster cracks, Month 7 collapses beside you, ash in her lungs, blood on her lips. She's still clutching her wax impression, still trying to preserve something. You drop the pottery shard. Grab her hand instead. She looks at you with fading eyes and whispers, "Press hard so it stays." You understand. You press your palm against your half-carved inscription. Press your whole weight against the wall, against the name you'll never finish, against the daughter you'll never hold, against the evidence that you existed, that you loved, that you were more than breeding stock in a Lannister's ledger. The pyroclastic surge hits like divine judgment. Everything goes white. In 1748, 2,000 years of ash are carefully excavated from the Pompeii gladiator barracks. They find the maternitas, find the walls covered in inscriptions, hundreds of names in a dozen languages. The excavation team catalogs it meticulously. Chamber 12, decorative graffiti, various hands, unclear purpose. Decorative graffiti. Then, because the chamber might be useful for displaying more important artifacts, weapons, armor, mosaics that tell the stories of male gladiators. Scrape the walls clean, expose the more valuable frescoes underneath. The names are lost forever. Except, in 2023, a research team using UV light technology scans the chamber walls. They're looking for hidden frescoes, lost artwork, anything that might have been painted over. Instead, they find impressions, thousands of them, letters pressed so deeply into the soft limestone by desperate hands that even scraping couldn't erase them completely. Under the right light, at the right angle, the grooves remain, shadows of words, ghosts of names. Marcus, Helena, Brennus, Lucia, daughter of Bellica, and... The researchers don't understand what they're seeing at first. It takes months of analysis, linguistic experts, historians who specialize in the mundane details that don't make it into triumphant narratives, archeologists willing to ask uncomfortable questions about fetal remains and breeding programs and what Romans did to captive women in the name of profit. The wall speaks anyway in invisible voices, in pressed limestone, in the desperate preservation attempts of women who knew they were dying but refused to let their children be forgotten. The worst fate wasn't death. It was being turned into a factory, your body commodified, your children stolen, your humanity reduced to fertility metrics and bloodline calculations. And then being erased, scraped away, catalogued as decorative graffiti and destroyed to make room for the stories of men. But the ash preserves everything, even the truth that history tried to bury. The names are still there, you just have to know how to look. And somewhere in the phantom impressions on Chamber 12's western wall, if you angle the light correctly, you can still see the beginning of an unfinished inscription. Brighid's daughter of Iceny blood, and the rest is silence. But the silence is not empty.